All right, part two of the project. Are you all ready? Part two of the project, what I enjoy about it is it really becomes your entire insight. And what I mean by that is the remaining section of this project is your own interpretation. It really takes on that business plan genre that this project essentially is. And just again, what I mean by that is you don't have to rely on any type of information on the internet for part two of the project, for the remaining sections. It's your own plan. So it's whatever you think is appropriate for your own project. That's could be overwhelming, right? Because it's your own creativity, how you want to see this plan actually plan out. But the nice thing is you don't have to rely on finding information out there for the remaining sections. The only section you really have to do that for was the country profile section in the first half of the project where you found sources. But the remaining sections are really just your own interpretation. You know, this is your idea. This is your business plan. So how do you want to see it plan out? So I will stop talking about that and get to the main sections. So part one, we concluded with the country profile. So the remaining sections of the report, we're going to start with the objectives section. The objectives are really brief. They help keep your audience organized, essentially, and just help keep you organized in how you want to get started, in knowing what goals or tasks your team is trying to accomplish once they are in the other. And again, I apologize, I'm on my phone. My computer is just not allowing me to record right now again. But I hope this is clear for you all. That whatever your team is trying to accomplish once they are in this country that you're traveling to, what are the goals you want your team to accomplish while visiting this country that you chose? This section should be in bullet points because it's a list. It's a list of 5 goals, 5 objectives that you either want to focus on for the entire time or just to get started. You know, it's entirely up to you as long as I see some type of list of 5 goals. So let's go. Now, here's something I want to remind you about. What I'm moving over here, what I'm looking at here is the student sample of the project, the one that I've been using in this lecture. I'll go ahead and throw another student sample of the project for you all so you can kind of compare, because you can have 2 to compare. But this is the sample that I went over in part 1 with you all as well. So this is the student's objectives. It's short, right? It's a list. And it's 5. We have 1, 2, 3. I'm counting on my screen as if you can see me count. There's a list of 5, as you could see by the bullet points. She had 2 different cities in Japan, so that's why you're seeing 2 cities marked here. You don't have to do that. If you want to specify it between different cities, then of course make it clear to your audience and specify like she did. But what I'm looking for is at least, you can write more if you're feeling really determined, but at least 5 objectives. The objectives should be measurable. And what I mean by that is something is measurable if you see a number or if you see it worded in a sense where you can count something. And that just helps make it an easier goal to keep accountable, to measure, to see if it's getting accomplished. Whenever you have a number, it's a little bit easier. So let's take a look at her objectives. This project was about going to Japan to gain fashion influence ideas for her fashion company. Objective 1, taking 5 to 7 days to discuss ideas and visit places needed for inspiration. That 5 to 7 days is a great way to measure. It gives her a little time frame to set aside to do some research about influences. Objective 2, looking for the right garment to measure dresses and specify how many are short and how many are long. So what types of dresses and how many dresses, what type of garment, and how many short and long dresses. That's a great way to measure as well. Design 50 dresses for the next runway. That's a good goal, right? How many dresses do we want to accomplish for this runway? And that 50 gives her something to keep track of while they're over there. Objective 4, take a week to advertise for the special 12 dresses runway. So that's her goal, is to have a specific runway around dresses. So 1 week set aside for the advertisement part. She could go in this a little bit more detail if she wanted to. What types of advertisement is it going to be? Create 20 flyers to distribute in a certain area, a certain community in Japan? Or is she also going to share a post on Instagram for her company's page? Maybe specify where the advertisement would occur, but still, it's a great objective. Objective 5, pricing dresses and put them for sale online, and gives people who live in Japan a 30 days discount. So, having a certain number, or what price, that's a good number, right, to measure the sales. And then I like this one because you could count those 30 days, the discount, see if people use it, and also just see how many dresses they sell. It's a great way to measure. If you get stuck with objectives, because that's the intimidating part of the creative side of this, because it's your own insight, so you don't really have anything to base it off of, because this is a new project that you're creating. The way I used to introduce this section in my face-to-face classes is, what I would do is I would tell students, I want you to practice writing objectives. And how you're going to do that is write down 5 goals that you have for yourself for the week. Basic goals that you want to accomplish for the week. So here's something that I came up with. And again, this isn't something that I would directly put in my project, right? Because it has nothing to do with my project. But this can help you write out objectives for something. So ask yourself, what are at least 5 goals I want to accomplish for myself during the week? Here are mine. Number 1, grade 60 essays. In a perfect world, I would accomplish that. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but it's a great goal to have. And is it measurable? Yes, because that 60 is a way for me to keep track to see if I'm accomplishing that objective. I found a kitten the other day, so share 6 photos of kitten up for adoption. I took a lot of photos, so I focused on my 6 favorites. And again, I could specify, right? Share 6 photos of kitten on Instagram. So I know that I'm sharing at least 1 post on Instagram and it's 6 photos. It's a way to measure, right? Do 2 loads of laundry. I really need to do laundry. So how many loads do I need? I need to do 2. So that's a great way to measure if I accomplish that objective. If I'm trying to keep healthy, keep a stricter diet and plan for the week, maybe do a cleanse. Eat 5 salads. I can measure how many salad by Wednesday. I could see where am I at? Did I have how many salads so far? It's a measurable objective because of that number. Number 5, workshop projects with students. And then by the end of the week, I count how many students I workshopped with to see if I reached a certain objective. Maybe I could say workshop, 30 projects with students. That helps it narrow it even more. Whatever you think, but this is a good way to practice to write objectives. What are your goals for the week? So those are the objectives. Let's see. Sorry, I hate scrolling on my phone. Next section is the timeline. The timeline is a visual. And what I mean by that, it's a chart or a graph. So make sure you incorporate a chart or a graph on your Word document or Google Doc file. If you need help with how to add that, let me know how to design it. It's a really quick and easy step. I'll throw a tutorial from YouTube on Canvas, but definitely make sure it's a chart or a graph. And I can easily help you all with the tech part of this if you want to stop by office hours or set an appointment. The timeline, it really depends how long would you want to travel abroad, meaning how long is this project? How long is this plan? If it's longer than a week, then just at the beginning of the timeline section, specify how long. Is this a month-long project? Is this a year? Is it 6 months? Is it 2 weeks? Whatever you think. But all I want for the timeline, so it's fair for everybody, and not one student isn't overwhelmed if they chose a year and another student is less overwhelmed if they chose 2 weeks, is at least all I want for your timeline for everyone is make sure the timeline is at least one full week, so 7 days of activities and, locations. And again, like I said, this should be a chart or graph. Now, a week is not that long, so it most likely is you're just highlighting one specific week. So at the beginning of the timeline, maybe specify, this is a month-long project, but here's an ideal week. Here's an important week that we want to set aside. And then, again, however you want to design that, whatever information you want, but what I'm looking for when I grade is that you've highlighted a week of activities. It looks great in visual format like a table or a chart because it's audience aware, right? You can visualize the plan better. Think about when you all sign up for workshops with me, I often do that Google Doc where you look at the day and then the time and then you type your name. So here's something that I created on my phone. It's entirely up to you, like I said. But this is the way I visualize timelines. People go back and forth, do you put the days of the week at the top in the columns, or do you put them in the rows on the left? It's up to you, whatever's clear for you. But what can we do to make it, the design principles is make sure they're bolded, the headings. I label it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, through Sunday. If you wanted to say day 1, 2, 3, if you want to tally it by an actual date, you can definitely do that too. As long as you have a week highlighted. And the nice thing about those Word templates with the charts and on Google Docs is you can change the color, think of design here, right? Add a little bit more flair to it. Use bold for headings, things like that. And then whatever you want on the side, if you want to do every hour, that's cool. If you want to do blocks by, 3-hour blocks, 4-hour blocks on the side, it's up to you. That's your own creative take on this project. It's your plan. But some students get confused on what should go in the timeline. I think it's best, you can add more, but I think it's best to incorporate some or all of these objectives. Now, you can't accomplish all types of objectives in a week if you have a lot going on with this project, but you could kind of think about how you want to plan it out. So just using my own personal day of the week objectives, if I incorporated some of these into here, this is what I would do. Maybe on my objective 1 is grade 60 essays. I'm not going to grade 60 essays in a day. I'm not even going to lie to you all about that. That's a lot. So, maybe Monday for this 3-hour block, I would grade 10 essays. The next hour block on Monday, contact social media, foster groups for cat, because one of my objectives was to share kitten photos. 5 to 8, that's a long time for laundry, but wash and fold laundry. That I didn't accomplish every single objective on Monday, right? But I don't expect myself to. That's too much. Tuesday, if I want to keep it all about the grading, maybe for that consistency, grade 10 essays. Not the emoji. Grade 10 essays. If there's other objectives you want to incorporate, some students like to do meet locals. You could type whatever you want with this. What do you want your team to do? Some of you all are doing more like literacy camps, for example, hold class. It's whatever you want to accomplish for this week. But like I said, what I'm seeing is you've mapped out a week and you've incorporated some detail within that week. So, that's why these objectives are nice, because they help you plan out. Meet locals. What's the word? Sorry, it's really early. I haven't had my coffee yet. Make salad. That's a really random thing, right? Meet locals, make salad. But I'm just trying to help you all visualize this timeline a little bit, just so you have your own creative interpretation. You don't need complete sentences for a timeline. It's a chart. So, you want to be clear to the audience. Let's take a look at the sample. I can't remember what her timeline looked like. There. Looks really good. Timeline. Now see, she's saying this trip will be for 5 months. So she's reminding us just how long. So how long are you going overall first? Just explain that. If you want to summarize what most of the days will incorporate, anything that'll help your team, because this is directed to your team, so they want to know a little bit of information before they go. How horrible would it be if you sent them somewhere and they had no idea what the plan was before they got there? It's just a good summary of what's, going on. Finding inspiration, getting ideas from the cherry blossoms might take more time. So that's, she's just specifying what might take a little bit longer, what part of the objectives might take too long, might take that full 5 months. But by the way, what she did it by month. That's fine. If you want to take that on, I am more than okay with it. But sometimes students get a little overwhelmed with the timeline, so I just want to know a week. But if you'd rather clump it into months, that's more than a week. So you've surpassed my objectives for you with the timeline, as long as it's not under a week, right? So she grouped it by week to make it a full month. What a month would be like there. That's more than okay too, because sometimes day to day, it's just not enough time. Maybe week to week is a little bit easier to clump together. But she's incorporating those objectives. Discover places for inspiration. Find garment ideas, start designing, because, hers is about art. Art you can't accomplish in a week. It's fashion. So they need to do research first, then they need to get garments, then they do design, then they confirm. It's more of it's a longer process. But again, it's, like I said, it's your own interpretation. She didn't do it by time, because she's clumping it into the months instead. But some students like to have fun and say, tourist day, meet locals, try local food. If you want to take a little break for your team, that's fine. Don't do that for the whole timeline. Incorporate your objectives into it in some way. But that's one of the timelines. Also, in the other student sample I'll put up there, you can kind of compare the difference. But it's your own plan. All right. Let's take a look at the next section. Budget. Oh, I'm so sorry. This is going to go back and forth. All right, budget. Okay. Whether any organization would include a paid budget or not, some organizations provide the funding, others it's out of pocket. It's just, this is just a plan. It helps your organization keep a budget on file regardless, right? How much are we spending and for each person, and that way we know and we could keep it on file. We are not in a budgeting class. We are not in a math class. This is a writing class. I am horrible at math, so I don't expect you to be math geniuses with the budget. You can keep this as simple as possible. And what I mean by that is at least have the following things on there. What's the average price of a plane ticket round trip to a specific city in the country you're going to, and from the location that your organization is located? So remember, in that organization background section, whatever city or town you mentioned that it's located in, that's where it should be leaving from, right? Unless there's not an airport there, then, like for example, in Las Cruces, people tend to go to El Paso to fly out, right? But just keep that in mind for that consistency. So price of an average plane ticket. If you want to name a specific hotel, on Google, type in hotels. I'm going to pretend I'm going to London. Hotels in London. And you could think about a specific name of a hotel if you want, and how much per night it would cost. And I'll show you how to do that in just a second. And then if you want to tell your audience a set cost of how much they should set aside per day, what I mean by that is spending money. So at least a week of spending money that they should have. And what I mean by spending money, that's food, transportation, etc. So if they need to set aside $20 a day for food, $10 a day for food, 15, whatever you think, $10 for transportation a day, whatever you think is appropriate. How much do you spend on a day for this stuff? Or if you've been out of town, or just a daily, how much do you set aside per day? That can help you gauge that a little bit. A little bit of spending money. Some students like to have fun with that, and they add, $10 for souvenirs to get your family. Again, that's not needed, but some students like to do that as well. And then all I want is to total that. What is the total of everything there and the grand total? And again, it's a simple budget. We're not in budgeting class, so I don't expect anything super concrete with that. Now consider design here. Does a budget look better in a lengthy paragraph or in a visual chart or bulleted list? It looks better if you list this information so the audience doesn't miss anything for the budget. So let's take a look at that sample. I love the way she designed this. She did this on Word, so if you need help, changing that color or anything like that, you don't want it too crazy, but maybe the color of the country you're going to, she should have done a red, with the flag a little bit. But I like that she also did the comparison between the US dollar and the yen that they use in Japan. So if you want to convert whatever the total is to their currency, that would be really cool. The plane ticket round trip was, I think she said she was in New York. I'm not going to make you dizzy and go back to the organization background, but from New York to Tokyo, I believe, is where she was going. It's about 1,800, so she converted that into the yen. Food, she said, set aside $35 a day, and that's what it translates to. Transportation, depending, she specified, you're taking the train. It's about $9 to $11. Taxis are this much. And how did she find that? She just went on Google, how do people commute in Japan? How do tourists commute? What does it cost? And that's what she kind of came up. You're just summarizing. You're not getting concrete detail. What's the average cost? Other expenses, she probably means by that is any other kind of spending money that people may need to set aside. $35 a day. And what does that transfer to? And then my only gripe with this is what I want is for you all to total these numbers for a grand total. And I think at least the grand total have it converted to the currency there. Now, if you're not sure, how do I find plane ticket information? And let alone right now, you all right with everything going on? The prices are going to be a little weird probably. That's all right. I'm going to pretend my organization is in El Paso. Flights from El Paso to London. I'll put London. Just Google it. Flights from the location of your organization, and then what city are you traveling to in this country? If you want to change the dates to the future, if it's next year sometime, you can change the dates here. Or if you just want to see the general cost, it's good. It's going to fluctuate, right? First of all, it's really inconsistent right now with everything going on. It also depends on when you go, what time of year. London is freezing then, so the prices are probably a little lower. But just gather what. Don't click anything, right? But just gather right here what you're seeing. What's the average cost? Seems to be more than 900, seems to be less than 1,100. So maybe to be on the safe side, we would just say 1,100. It's about the average cost. And then what else did we say? We said hotels. So I say hotel just because it's a business plan if you need, but sometimes people, especially nowadays, there's other appropriate ways to set your team up somewhere. Airbnb is a popular place to stay as well. So if you want to look up Airbnbs in London or wherever, whatever city you're going to, of course. But, $51 a night. Again, this list is nice. There's a very wide range of prices. So maybe, if you just want to get the average of these that you're seeing here, say $50, $75, that could be a good thing. Or you go upwards of 100. Just give me some kind of number is what I'm asking for. And then transportation in London. Not transport. Public, they have the bus, obviously. Cheapest way. They have the they have the pound, so that's their currency, but buses cost about £4.50, but you have to convert that to see what that price would be. I believe that's about $8 here right now. How to get around public transport. They have the tube, the underground system. So just see how much that is. That could help. Just do a little research, see what kind of numbers come up as well. Getting around London, let's see. Yeah, I think this is nice. I could look up buses in London and how much the tube is. And that could really just specify. And if you want to say taxis, but those would be a little more expensive, right? Taxis usually are. Look at, you could get a day card. One day card is £10. It's about $20. A little bit of, just help your audience out with that. And currency exchange. Just Google currency exchange. Whatever the grand total of your budget is, if it ends up being, I'll say mine is 2,367 US dollars. And then just change it to wherever you're going. If you don't know off the top of your head, I don't blame you. So Google what type of currency locals use. But I'll go back to the yen just because the sample's doing that. And it's not doing it? Why? What? Oh, I think I need to know the exact number. So go to, this is acting a little weird for me. So go to just one of the websites. Let's see this one. There we go. This one's better. So make sure you have the US dollar. That's the grand total of your budget. And then I'll do the British pound. And that's how much the total would be for both. So include both, just so they have it. Kind of nice to learn about currency to compare the prices, how different it is, the US dollar, how much higher the US dollar is. So, this part, I guess the budget is not made up either. Certain stuff you can kind of get creative with, spending money, for example. But total and all that and currency, definitely search on Google. If you need help with that, that's the nice thing about this project. It's really more one-on-one, so I can help search some stuff for you too if you want to meet with me and we can talk it out. But as long as you have that, an average price of plane tickets, average price of hotel, so just some spending money, total it up and do a conversion rate around it. Conclusion, ending on a budget's a little random, right? It's like, okay, bye, have fun, see ya. So ending on budget is a little random. So some type of little conclusion paragraph, 5 sentences, standard paragraph, gets it to an end and reverts back to that cover memo where you introduced this project. Brief, maybe the importance of this travel. What is it going to bring to your organization, to the world, to the community, whatever is appropriate with your organization. It's a good closing thought. And then the reference page, if you need help with APA format, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Don't skip a reference page. It's so important to give credit. I'm saying 3 here because they originally had to have 3 sources. You need at least 2 in the country profile section. You can have more if you want. Include the references on its own page. So do a new page for it at the very end of the report. Title it references. And then include all of your sources. Alphabetize your sources. The second line when it goes to a second line like it's doing here, make sure to indent it. That's called a hanging indent. Any technical questions you have, don't hesitate to ask me. But helpful hints about the project. Make sure your report has all the required sections. That's so important. All those sections we're going over. Utilize design principles with headings. Make sure all major headings are the same color, style, font, and size. Make them larger. It looks really plain if you don't make them larger. Bold them. Change the color if it's appropriate. All that fun stuff. A size or two larger than the subtext, meaning, this is my heading, right? And it's larger. This is my subtext. It's all consistent. Use concise writing. Even in that country profile section, it's a traditional sense of paragraphs, but don't write one full paragraph. Use topic sentences. These pages in the book describe topic sentences. They're the first sentence of every paragraph and tell the audience what the main purpose of the paragraph is. It gives order and structure to it. Whenever you list information, use bullet points. Consider your audience while your team is the primary audience and most likely knows specific terminology. You still want to use simplified language, no jargon, no specialized vocabulary. If you do use it, explain what it means so that it's clear to everyone. Keep within the page requirements so that you have a guide and that you don't feel overwhelmed. And think about the student sample as well. A business plan, of course, has a lot of sections, but it's written in a way that you can read it pretty quick. That's what I like about it. Like I said, with that country profile section, the first part of it, the 5 communication characteristics about the country, keep in mind that doesn't count towards the source count, and I would list those communication characteristics. It just looks a little nicer. But part 2 of the country profile, that's where you're incorporating 2 sources to prove the need to travel. That's traditional paragraphs, and the sources prove the need to travel because it shows your team that you did a little research and that's why you chose this country. It builds that credibility as well. So how did she close out in her conclusion? Let's take a look. Oh man, I'm so sorry. Back and forth with this. The challenges will give new experiences for our team at KFH. I believe as a company owner, it will give our company value. Going to a new country won't be easy, but our team can do it. I will be there if there's any changes or any help needed. Company that defines, she incorporated that mission, it sounds like at the end here. Innovation and variation, unique products, and going to town will help us develop more ideas. Plan for better, and we are always ahead for creativity. It's a great project. She did a great job. So all her sections. Think about what sections need to stand alone and what sections, those are all stated in my guidelines. Memo goes on its own because it's a memo. Background goes on its own, but objective, it just looks clean. It's a clean design. It came out to exactly 10 pages. Here's her references as well. So let me know if y'all have any questions. We're moving along so well with this. I cannot wait to all these creative ideas you have for this. And I am an office hours Zoom visit away, and I can work on this project with you if you need my help with anything.